Hey there, friend. Welcome to this quiet space where the day's edges soften and the world slows to a whisper. If you're settling in for the night, take a moment now, while your eyes are still open, to tap that follow or subscribe button so these stories can find you again tomorrow. And if you'd like, drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. A cozy bed in the city, or perhaps by a window overlooking the sea. This is our gentle retreat, away from the rush and the noise, a place to unwind and let curiosity carry us softly. Feel your breath deepen. Let your body sink into the comfort around you. And tonight, we're stepping into Whispers Beneath the Old Observatory. Chapter 1. The Call of the Coastal Horizon. As the sun dipped low over the jagged cliffs of the northern coastline, painting the sky in hues of faded lavender and muted gold, the old observatory stood sentinel against the endless expanse of the sea. Its weathered stone tower, etched with the patient marks of centuries, rose from the misty headland like a forgotten guardian, its dome cracked and silent under the weight of time. The air here carried the faint tang of salt and kelp, mingling with the earthy scent of damp moss clinging to the rocks below. In the distance, the waves murmured their eternal rhythm, lapping against the shore in a cadence that seemed almost deliberate, as if the ocean itself were breathing in sync with the fading light. I remember the first time I wandered this path, drawn by tales half remembered from dusty archives and quiet conversations in dimly lit libraries. The observatory had been built in the late 1700s by a reclusive astronomer named Elias Thorne, a man obsessed not just with the stars above, but with the subtle pull of the tides below. He believed the sea held secrets mirrored in the heavens, patterns that repeated like forgotten constellations etched into the sand. As I approached, the gravel crunched softly underfoot, each step echoing faintly against the cliffside. The wind whispered through the overgrown grasses, carrying the distant cry of gulls, and I paused to let the cool breeze brush my skin, grounding me in this place where time felt suspended. Inside, the air was still and heavy, infused with the aroma of aged wood and faint traces of oil from long-extinguished lanterns. The spiral staircase creaked under my weight as I ascended, each turn revealing glimpses of the sea through narrow, fog-streaked windows. At the top, the observatory room opened like a hushed chamber, its massive telescope angled toward the horizon, covered in a fine layer of dust that sparkled in the slanting light. Charts and journals lay scattered on a worn oak table, their pages yellowed and filled with Thorne's meticulous notes, sketches of tidal pools that shifted unnaturally, records of whispers heard only at low tide, and diagrams of footprints that appeared and vanished with the fog. Reflecting on those early discoveries, I felt a gentle curiosity stir within me, not urgency, but a patient unfolding. The mystery here was not one to be chased, but invited, allowed to reveal itself in the quiet moments between breaths. As evening deepened, the light from the setting sun filtered through the dome's cracks, casting elongated shadows that danced slowly across the floor. I sat there, listening to the sea's soft exhale, wondering what secrets lay buried beneath this ancient structure, waiting for the right tide to whisper them free. The coastline stretched endlessly, a tapestry of rugged beauty where land met water in a perpetual embrace. Wildflowers nodded in the breeze, their petals releasing a subtle fragrance that blended with the brine. Far below, the beach revealed itself in patches of smooth pebbles and tangled seaweed. And as the tide receded, I noticed the first hint of anomaly. Faint impressions in the sand, like bare feet pressed lightly, leading toward the base of the cliffs. They weren't fresh, yet they shimmered with an otherworldly clarity, as if preserved by the mist. No fear accompanied this sight, only a serene wonder, an invitation to ponder the lineage of those who had walked here before. Elias Thorne's journals spoke of similar sightings, documented with the care of a scholar, attuned to the world's subtler rhythms. He described nights when the fog rolled in thick, blanketing the headland in a veil that muffled all sound, save for the gentle lap of waves. In those hours, he claimed, whispers emanated from beneath the observatory, soft, indistinct murmurs that carried fragments of forgotten languages, echoing through the stone foundations. Thorne speculated they were echoes of ancient keepers, perhaps druids or early seafarers who had charted the tides not with instruments, but with intuition and ritual. As I traced my fingers over his faded ink, I felt connected to that chain, a quiet thread linking past and present in this tranquil enclave. The evening air grew cooler, wrapping around me like a soft shawl, and I descended the stairs once more, stepping out into the twilight. The stars began to emerge, pinpricks of light against the deepening blue, mirroring the bioluminescent glow that sometimes danced in the tidal pools below. Here, in this place of whispers and wonders, the mystery invited reflection, not resolution. A gentle reminder that some truths unfold like the tide itself, slow and inevitable. Chapter 2. Echoes of the First Keepers. Deeper into the history of the observatory, one uncovers the lineage of its guardians, a quiet succession of souls drawn to the edge of the world. Elias Thorne was not the first. Before him, in the mists of the 1600s, came Isolde Merrick, a herbalist and tide watcher from the nearby village of Harrow's End. She had arrived during a time when the sea was revered as a living entity, its moods interpreted through folklore passed down in fireside tales. The villagers spoke of her in hushed tones, not out of dread, but esque reverence, how she would wander the cliffs at dawn, her skirts brushing the dew-laden heather, collecting shells and stones that held, she believed, the memory of ancient waters. Isolde's records, preserved in fragile parchment bound with twine, detailed the strange tidal patterns that plagued, or perhaps blessed, this stretch of coast. The waters here did not follow the moon's predictable pull alone. They ebbed and flowed in cycles that repeated every 17 years, aligning with celestial events long forgotten by modern calendars. She sketched maps of the shoreline, noting how certain coves would drain completely under a harvest moon, revealing submerged ruins of what might have been an older structure, pillars of weathered granite, half buried in silt, etched with symbols resembling interlocking waves and stars. As I pored over her writings in the observatory's archive room, illuminated by the soft glow of a single candle, the flame flickering gently against the walls, I imagined her there, her quills scratching steadily amid the scent of drying herbs and sea air. The room itself was a sanctuary of sorts, with shelves lined in leather-bound volumes and curiosities, a collection of tide-worn bones, polished by endless currents, vials of seawater that seemed to hold a faint inner light, and a brass astrolabe, its surface tarnished but still functional, pointing eternally toward the horizon. Reflecting on Isolde's life, one senses the emotional resonance of her solitude, not loneliness, but a chosen communion with the natural world. She wrote of nights when the fog enveloped the headland, turning the landscape into a dreamlike realm where boundaries blurred. In those veiled hours, footprints would materialize on the damp sand below the cliffs, leading from the water's edge to the observatory's base. They were small, almost childlike, yet purposeful, as if tracing a path known only to the sea's memory. Isolde followed them once, her lantern casting a warm halo in the mist, and found they vanished at a crevice in the rock, a narrow opening that whispered with the sound of dripping water and distant echoes. The sensory details of those pursuits linger in her words, the chill of the fog on her skin like a gentle caress, the crunch of shells underfoot mingling with the rhythmic sigh of waves, the faint, briny taste on the wind, carrying hints of far-off storms. She pondered if these prints were remnants of lost souls or manifestations of the tide's own consciousness, a phenomenon tied to the Earth's quiet pulses. No alarm in her accounts, only a meditative curiosity, a willingness to let the mystery breathe alongside her. As the candle burned lower, its wax pooling softly on the saucer, I closed the parchment and stepped to the window. Outside, the night had fully claimed the coast, stars reflecting in the calm pools left by the receding tide. The whispers, if they came, would be subtle tonight, inviting me to listen without demand, to reflect on the keepers who had come before, their legacies woven into the very stones of this place. Chapter 3. The Rhythm of Hidden Tides. Beneath the observatory, the tides held their own secrets, a subterranean world of channels and caverns carved by millennia of patient water. The coastline here was riddled with them, hidden passages where the sea infiltrated the land, creating a labyrinth of echoing chambers that amplified the ocean's breath. I descended one evening as the light waned, following a narrow path etched into the cliffside, its steps worn smooth by countless feet. The air grew cooler with each descent, infused with the mineral scent of wet stone and the faint, organic decay of seaweed caught in crevices. At the base, A small cove opened, its sands glistening under the emerging moon. Here, the tidal patterns revealed their anomaly. Instead of a steady retreat, the water withdrew in fits and starts, exposing ridges of rock that formed natural dials. Ancient markers, perhaps, aligned with solstices and equinoxes. Local folklore spoke of these as tidal clocks, mechanisms not built by human hands but shaped by the sea's artistry. As I knelt to touch one, the stone felt alive under my fingers, cool and textured like the skin of some ancient creature, vibrating faintly with the distant rumble of waves. Reflecting on this, I recalled Thorne's theories, expanded upon by later keepers like Professor Harlan Voss in the 1800s, a gentle scholar with a penchant for blending science and myth. Voss's journals described experiments with pendulums suspended in these caverns, their swings influenced not just by gravity, but by the whispers, subtle sounds that emanated from deeper fissures. He believed they were acoustic phenomena, echoes of underground currents, but laced his notes with poetic musings. The sea speaks in tongues of time, revealing footprints of moments long past. In the cove, as fog began to gather, rolling in like a soft blanket from the horizon, I watched the footprints appear. They materialized gradually, one by one, as if pressed by invisible wanderers. The sand yielded gently, each impression filled with tiny pools of water that reflected the stars. No haste in their formation, only a serene progression, leading toward a shadowed alcove beneath the observatory's foundation. The air hummed with a low, soothing vibration, like the distant toll of a bell submerged in velvet. Sensory immersion enveloped me, the mist's cool kiss on my cheeks, the gritty texture of sand between my toes, the rhythmic hush of water retreating further. Voss had followed similar trails, documenting how they aligned with lunar phases, suggesting a connection to forgotten rituals, perhaps offerings left by early inhabitants to appease the tides. He spoke of finding relics in the alcoves, carved shells depicting spiral patterns, symbols of eternity and renewal. As night deepened, the cove transformed into a realm of quiet magic, the fogs, diffusing the moonlight into an ethereal glow. I lingered, letting the mystery wash over me like the tide itself, patient and unending, a gentle invitation to ponder the rhythms that bind us to the ancient world below. Chapter 4. Lanterns in the Fog. The fog along this coast was a living entity, thick and contemplative, wrapping the observatory in layers of mystery that invited slow exploration. It arrived without warning, born from the meeting of warm currents and chill air, blanketing the headland in a hush that muffled the world's sharper edges. I ventured out one such evening, a lantern in hand, its flame casting a warm, golden circle that danced with the mist's tendrils. The light refracted softly, creating halos around distant shapes, the twisted branches of stunted trees, the outline of the tower rising above. Each step through the fog was deliberate, the ground soft underfoot with dew-soaked grass, releasing a fresh, herbal scent that mingled with the ever-present salt. The whispers began then, faint at first, like leaves rustling in a breeze that wasn't there. They emanated from below, through cracks in the earth, carrying fragments of sound, perhaps words, perhaps melodies, that evoked memories not my own. Keepers like Isolde had described them as voices of the deep, guardians of secrets buried in the tidal strata. Reflecting in the lantern's glow, I thought of Amelia Crowe, a poet and researcher from the early 1900s who inherited the observatory's watch. Her letters, preserved in glass cases upstairs, spoke of nights spent mapping the fog's patterns, how it revealed hidden paths and concealed others. She believed the whispers were echoes of human history, intertwined with the seas, tales of shipwrecks, lost lovers, and ancient migrations preserved in the water's memory. Amelia would sit by the cliff's edge, her notebook open, letting the mist dampen the pages as she transcribed the sounds into verse, soft, flowing lines that captured the essence of patience and wonder. As I followed a faint trail downward, the lantern illuminating patches of wild thyme and lichen-covered rocks, the footprints emerged once more. They glowed subtly in the fog, as if infused with phosphorescence from the sea, leading me to a concealed entrance at the cliff's base, a stone archway overgrown with ivy that trailed like gentle fingers. Inside, the air was still, scented with earth and faint ozone, and the whispers grew clearer, resolving into harmonious tones that soothed rather than startled. The chamber beyond was a natural vault, its walls glistening with moisture, stalactites dripping in slow rhythm. Amelia's accounts mentioned finding inscriptions here, carved in a script blending Celtic knots and nautical symbols, perhaps left by druidic seers who viewed the tides as portals to other realms. No sense of intrusion, only harmony, as if the place welcomed quiet observers. Lingering there, the fog outside thickening to obscure the stars, I extinguished the lantern briefly, letting darkness and sound envelop me. The whispers wove around, a meditative tapestry, reminding me of the observatory's enduring legacy, a beacon not for navigation, but for introspection in the face of the unknown. Chapter 5. Archives of Faded Ink. Up in the observatory's heart lay the archives, a room of timeless repose where history slumbered in stacks of leather-bound tomes and rolled parchments. The air here was dry and papery, infused with the subtle aroma of ink and aged vellum, a sanctuary from the moist coastal winds. Shelves of dark walnut groaned under their burden, each volume a testament to the keeper's quiet diligence. I spent many afternoons there, the sunlight filtering through leaded glass and muted shafts, dust motes drifting lazily like stars in a miniature galaxy. Pulling down a journal from Harlan Voss, its spine creaking softly, I delved into his observations of the tidal anomalies. He charted how the waters rose and fell in 17-year cycles, aligning with comet passages and solar flares, but laced with inexplicable variances, sudden stillnesses where the sea paused as if listening. Voss reflected on these as moments of communion, when the whispers beneath grew audible, carrying hints of forgotten knowledge, coordinates to lost atolls, remedies drawn from marine flora, echoes of celestial alignments. The sensory details enriched his prose, the scratch of quill on paper by candlelight, the flicker casting long shadows, the distant roar of waves muted to a lullaby through thick walls, the taste of herbal tea he brewed to ward off the chill. As I read, I felt the emotional weight of his solitude, a chosen piece, where mystery became companion rather than enigma. Deeper in the archives, I uncovered artifacts, a collection of tide stones, smooth orbs etched with footprints that matched those on the shore, brass instruments for measuring lunar pull, their mechanisms still whispering when turned. Amelia Crow's poetry volumes sat nearby, her words evoking the fog's embrace and the sea's patient secrets. She wrote of following the prints to hidden grottos, where bioluminescent algae illuminated walls with gentle blue light, revealing murals of ancient peoples dancing with the tides. Reflecting, one senses the interconnectedness, a lineage bound by curiosity, each keeper adding layers to the tapestry. The room invited pause, the clock's tick a soft reminder of time's flow, mirroring the tides below. As evening light faded, casting the archives in amber hues, I closed the journal, letting the whispers from beneath seep through the floorboards, a serene symphony guiding me onward. Chapter 6. Shadows on the water's edge. At the water's edge, where land dissolved into sea, the mystery deepened in tranquil layers. The shore here was a mosaic of pebbles and shells, polished by endless caresses of waves, their colors shifting from pearl to obsidian in the twilight. I walked barefoot dawn, the sand cool and yielding, each grain a tiny world underfoot. The tide had just turned, leaving behind pools that mirrored the paling sky, alive with tiny creatures scuttling in harmonious motion. The footprints appeared as the sun crested the horizon, golden light piercing the mist to highlight their delicate forms. They trailed along the strand line, weaving between driftwood sculptures shaped by currents, twisted branches like ancient runes, scented with salt and sun-bleached wood. Following them, I felt no compulsion, only a gentle pull, as if invited to witness rather than pursue. Elias Thorne had documented similar dawns, his sketches capturing the print's precision, evenly spaced, with toes splayed as if in mid-step, vanishing at the water's edge or cliff base. He theorized they were imprints of temporal echoes, moments from the past replayed by the tide's memory, tied to the observatory's position atop ley lines converging with ocean currents. The air hummed with life, the soft plop of water droplets from overhanging rocks, the distant call of seals basking on offshore rocks, the briny mist settling on my lips. In a nearby tidal pool, reflections danced, and I paused to observe. Tiny anemones waving like underwater forests, crabs sidling with purposeful grace. Isolde Merrick's herbal lore intertwined here. She harvested sea plants during these low tides, brewing infusions that sharpened intuition, allowing her to hear the whispers more clearly. Her remedies, detailed in faded recipes, evoked emotional solace, teas that calmed the mind, aligning one's rhythm with the seas. As the sun climbed, warming the air and evaporating the mist, the footprints faded, dissolving like dreams at waking. Yet their essence lingered, a serene reminder of the unseen forces at play, binding the observatory's stones to the eternal dance below. Chapter 7. The Silent Mechanisms. Beneath the observatory's foundation lay the silent mechanisms, a network of natural conduits and man-made enhancements where water and stone conspired in quiet symphony. Accessing them required a hidden door in the cliffside, its iron hinges oiled by salt spray, creaking open to reveal a descending passage lit by phosphorescent fungi clinging to the walls. The air inside was cool and resonant, carrying the deep, earthy scent of underground rivers mingled with the faint ozone of trapped lightning. Harlan Voss had mapped these tunnels, his diagrams unfolding like petals, showing how channels funneled tidal waters into resonant chambers. Here, the whispers amplified, bouncing off curved walls in harmonious waves, sounds that evoked wind through reeds or distant choral hums. Voss believed they were vibrational records, etched into the rock by eons of flow, replaying when tides aligned. Descending, each step echoed softly, the stone underfoot textured with mineral veins that sparkled in lantern light. Pools collected at intervals, their surfaces still as mirrors, reflecting inverted worlds of stalactites and shadows. Touching the water, it felt alive, cool silk against skin, rippling gently as if responding. Reflecting on Voss's emotional notes, one feels his awe, a meditative reverence for nature's ingenuity, blending science with soul. He spent hours here, pendulum in hand, measuring swings that defied physics, attributing variances to the Earth's hidden pulses. Further in, a central chamber opened, its ceiling vaulted like a cathedral, walls inscribed with symbols from ancient keepers. The whispers swelled, a soothing lullaby, inviting contemplation of time's fluidity. How past and present merged in these depths. As I lingered, the tide's distant pull vibrated through the stone, a gentle heartbeat, underscoring the observatory's role as bridge between worlds. Chapter 8. Lineage of Quiet Watchers. The lineage of watchers stretched back through fog-shrouded centuries, each adding whispers to the collective memory. From druidic seers who first marked the site with standing stones, to medieval hermits seeking solace in its isolation, the observatory's precursors were steeped in tranquil pursuit. I traced their stories in fragmented tapestries and oral histories gathered from village elders, their voices soft as the wind over waves. One such watcher, Brother Caitlin in the 1400s, a monk from a dissolved abbey, built the first shelter here, a humble chapel of fieldstone, its altar facing the sea. His chronicles, illuminated with delicate inks, spoke of visions in the tides, shapes forming in foam, footprints guiding him to herbal groves. The air in his time carried scents of incense and wild sage, blending with brine and rituals of gratitude. Later, in the Enlightenment era, came scholars like Thorne, infusing folklore with empiricism. Their emotional legacies, journals filled with wonder, not conquest, created a chain of gentle inquiry. Wandering the headland, grasses whispering against my legs, I felt part of that thread, the mystery a shared inheritance, unfolding in patient layers. Chapter 9. Revelations in Moonlight. Moonlight transformed the coast into a silvered dreamscape, the observatory's silhouette etched against the starry vault. Full moons amplified the phenomena, tides pulling with heightened grace, whispers rising to audible serenity. I stood on the tower's balcony one such night, the metal railing cool under my palms, the air crisp with nocturnal freshness. Below, the sea gleamed, waves cresting in luminous foam, and the footprints manifested in multitudes, trails crisscrossing the sand like a map of forgotten journeys. Amelia Crowe described these as lunar dances, imprints of ancestral spirits revisiting in harmony. Descending to the shore, the sand glowed ethereally, each step sinking softly. The whispers from beneath harmonized with the waves, a meditative chorus evoking peace. Reflecting, the revelations felt cumulative, a slow unspooling of understanding, where mystery enhanced rather than obscured. Chapter 10. The Eternal Pull of Memory. Memory wove through the mystery like currents in the deep binding keepers across time. The observatory held echoes of their lives, faded photographs, pressed flowers, inscribed stones. I contemplated this in the quiet hours, the sea's rhythm a backdrop to introspection. The footprints, whispers, and tides spoke of preserved moments, time's gentle imprints, inviting us to remember without grasping. In this place, the pull was toward acceptance, a serene embrace of the unknown. Chapter 11. Harmony in the Depths. In the deepest chambers, harmony reigned, where water and stone met in eternal dialogue. The air thrummed with subtle energy, scents of mineral and mist creating a womb-like sanctuary. Here, the whispers resolved into patterns, perhaps codes of natural wisdom, soothing the soul. Reflecting on the lineage, one finds peace in the continuity, a mystery that endures, patient and profound. As the story's threads loosen, like mist dissolving at dawn, feel the observatory's stones settle into quiet. The tides easing their pull, waves lapping softer now, carrying away the day's remnants in gentle retreat. Let your thoughts drift with them, out to the horizon where sea meets sky in blurred embrace. No edges, only flow. The whispers fade to a hush, like embers glowing faintly in a hearth long warmed. The fog thickens, wrapping you in its cool, comforting veil, muffling sounds until only your breath remains, slow and steady. Lantern light dims to a soft amber glow, casting elongated shadows that stretch and dissolve. Corridors of memory unwind, leading to open fields of dream. The ancient mechanisms below pulse faintly, a heartbeat syncing with your own, releasing tension into the vastness. Details blur, mysteries soften into abstraction, like pebbles smoothed by endless tides. Feel the weight lift, body sinking deeper into rest, mind floating on currents of peace. No hurry, only this endless serene drift. In the end, the truth remains open to interpretation,